Madayaw na aga, everyone! Welcome back to my video. Today, I'm going to share my reflections for the midterm period. In this period, I repetitively encountered the word dictator. When we hear dictator, ang unang maiisip natin is yung martial law and the late President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. Kilala siya bilang isang diktador during his reign. And in later years ng kanyang pamumuno, there are lots of casualties and injustices that happened to the people's property and even to them, such as maltreatment and even worse, killings. According sa historical books na mabasa natin in our secondary years as part of our curriculum, yun yung mga nangyari, kaya nga meron tayong sinaselebrate na EDSA Revolution taon-taon. Kasi ito yung revolusyon attended by millions of Filipino people para patalsikin si Marcos sa pwesto during that time at ipahayag na din ang kanilang hinaing sa kanyang pamumuno. Pero dito sa Act of Declaration of Philippine Independence na isinulat ni Ambrosio Bautista, he described Don Emilio Aguinaldo as the revered dictator. Revered na dictator pa as head of the nation, it was even described in a positive manner. So it means that the word dictator is not bad or negative at all. Ginamit kasi yung term ngayon sa last election na nangyari during our current president campaign to pull him down. The term dictator does not always imply something negative. Kaya nga I am quite amazed of how they viewed Aguinaldo in the past. He was a dictator and his reign was described as dictatorship. Still, he was respected and loved by the citizens of this country. Hopefully, it will also be the same in the present time, where the people will also be open-minded and view the dictatorship in a positive manner as our predecessor did in the past. Only means that dictator can also be used in a good way. We must also show respect and support our current leader kasi by doing so, we can be united kahit lang for the sake of our country's progress as a whole. Dito naman, I know that the power of the Philippine government under the new constitution is divided into three branches: the legislative power, executive power, and the judicial power. But I am not aware that it also exists in the Malolos constitution. The three aforementioned powers shall never be governed by a single individual. Alam ko yan. Primarily for the sake of equitable power distribution and to prevent biases that could lead to extreme corruption for personal gain. Filipinos are generally not aware of this kasi every time na may anomaly na nangyari na hindi nila masyadong naintindihan, ang unang salarin para sa kanila is yung president without even comprehending the entire situation or the entire issue. For example na lang, yung recently ended martial law period under the previous administration. Ang daming nagprotesta kasi another episode na naman daw ito ng dictatorship. Sinisi nila si Duterte kasi daw, bakit pa need ng martial law? Pwede naman ganito, pwede naman ganyan. That they discriminate his way of ruling. Nagpapakita na hindi nila alam how the governments operate. Sabihin na natin na si former President Duterte ngayon nag-propose ng martial law. But do you think na may implement yun as simple as that? No, of course not. It was first reviewed by the lawmaking bodies with all due consideration, approved by the court, and signed by the president. It needed to go with all due process before it was put into effect. At saka, it was implemented to protect the population from terrorism that time. At kung mapapansin nyo, halos lahat talaga ng released that time hindi taga Mindanao. Samantala tayo yung mas affected dito dahil sa restrictions. In the neighboring area of Marawi such as Davao region, we don't even feel that there is tourism that time as we can safely sleep in our houses, showing that even though martial law affected our daily lives, it did not affect us in a negative manner. Awareness, yun yung kailangan natin. Functions to avoid making us a fool of ourselves since ignorance excuses no one. Responsibilidad nating makialam din sa isyong napapanahon, such as raising concerns and spreading awareness for the benefit of everybody. Sa Article 4 ng Treaty of Paris, naka-indicate itong sentence na ito doon. Hindi nga lang nakaspecify sa agreement kung ilang ships Spanish and Jewish ships might enter the Philippine ports every year upon the implementation of the treaty. What merchandise to offer to the locals or the method of payment used in this business trade aspect means it is an open transaction. Pwede nilang gawin lahat dito which is already detrimental to the locals. At saka, very unfair din yung deal kasi 10 years period. The Spanish and the US have the advantage to mine and even exhaust the nation's natural resources kung gugustuhin nila, which can affect the country's foundation and the entire future generation. According to books, the Philippines were recognized for its natural abundant riches, which are one of the factors that influenced powerful nations to invade and conquer the state of the Philippines in order for them to increase their wealth and power. Pero sa ngayon, hindi ko alam if mayayaman pa ba na tayo sa resources. Inagkukulang na nga tayo palagi sa supply ng pagkain, di ba? Sa controversial na retraction letter ni Rizal, I don't think ginawa niya yon. I don't think sinulat niya yon. Yung humingi siya ng tawad dahil nagsulat siya laban sa Catholic Church and the Spanish government. With that, niretract niya raw yung lahat ng nagawa niya na isa sa nagbigay pag-asa sa mga Pilipino in his time. Matalinong tao si Rizal para gawin niya yon. As a believer myself, who also follows a certain religion, I also do things that are against my religious rules and principles. No one is perfect. In Islam, the religion into which I was born, there are many rules to follow and many restrictions for women, which are frequently incompatible with how I conduct myself at the moment. From my dress code to my behavior and principle as a woman, very empowered, and vastly different from how women in my religion should conduct and behave. Tinuruan ako na hindi ko obligasyon na i-please ang lahat ng tao sa paligid ko. As long as I don't hurt anyone and just do what is rational and right, then I will be blessed and guided by God. Because He is the only one who knows me best. It is the same with Rizal. Kung aalahanin natin yung literature niya na nabasa natin so far, hindi naman talaga siya against sa religion o sa church. Against siya sa mga taong who use their power to hurt others. Retracting his very own writing doesn't make sense. He wrote because he thinks that is the most rational thing to do at that time. Otherwise, he will be going against his own conscience. At saka walang kahit na sinong taong pwedeng magtakwil sa'yo sa relihiyon na kinabibilangan mo at ng paniniwala mo. They are also followers, not creator or God. So strictly adhering to their mundane rules has never been the only option, especially when it is no longer right. So as human beings, we are given the ability to think rationally and we must use it wisely. The international community is aware of the issue of China's claim to most of the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea. Pero yung Philippines, may proof siya na kanya yung area na kapaloob din ito sa convention na to. The convention clearly states that the Philippine archipelago's borderline, any properties belonging inside the borderline, are owned by the Philippines. The West Philippine Islands are unmistakably a part of the Philippine territory. So bakit pa inaangkin ng China? Kasi may proof din sila? Ipadamihan na lang ng evidences over their claims. Kung sino ang mas maraming evidence na mas valid, edi kanya yung area. In the same process, pag nag-agawa ng dalawang tao ng lupa, di ba? Pwede naman yon. Ang ikinababahala ko kasi pag itong issue na ito hindi na-resolbahan ng maayos na paraan at i-push ng China ang kanilang claims nila, it may result in the outbreak of war. Tayong mga Pilipino ang unang maapektuhan. Masyadong malaki at makapangyarihan ng China para makipagdigma ang bansa natin. At dalangin ko, sana marisolba ito bloodlessly. Itong topic na to nakakasama ng loob. The Philippine-American War exists without even investigating the whole situation and was entirely blamed to the Filipinos. Based on the one-sided narration of Grayson, he sounded like kasi na may revolusyon na mangyayari. But Thompson's letter to his parents stated the opposite. Makikita mo, babasa nyo naman, eye-opening talaga siya. Lumaki kasi tayong malaki ang paghanga sa mga Amerikano kasi savior natin sila. It is the fact that they help our predecessors be free from Spanish colonization, But I see it as another regime where Filipinos are still under their claws, and whatever conflicts exist, the Filipinos will be at fault. The unfair treatment of Filipinos at that time cannot be denied or ignored. Killing and threatening our forefathers in their own motherland is simply too easy for our so-called savior. It's as if they, our forefathers, live at their mercy and died based on the Americans' judgment, which is heartbreaking. Not all people can really show and give pure kindness at the same time. The small nation will always be at the mercy of the big nation because that is how reality works, now and even in the past. Isa pa itong nakakasama ng loob. We grow up believing that the Americans really are our friends as they help us be free from the reign of Spanish colonization and give the Filipinos hope during their darkest time. Nabigyan ng pag-asa yung Pilipino at that time to reign over their own nation sa tulong ng mga Amerikano. But as I read the statements, I couldn't help but doubt the real purpose of the Americans at that time. Sinabi ni President McKinley sa publiko sa mga Pilipino na nandito sila sa Pilipinas bilang mga kaibigan at hindi bilang isang mananakop. Sa kabilang banda naman, sinabi niya privately sa subordinates niya na he wanted to annex the Philippines territory by putting it on the map of the US. That is really a very wise strategy in the art of war. Anong magandang tawag sa kanila? Invaders in a friendly manner? Kasi kahit saang banda tayo tumingin, kahit pabungin pa natin ang salitang mananakop, mananakop pa rin siya at the end of the day. Can this be considered as the biggest deception in history? Because what they are telling and showing to the Filipino is not their true motive. The Filipinos were exploited once more. And this statement is another eye-opener, especially for us, the new generation. What we grow up believing is not always entirely the truth. And it is our obligation to research or investigate what really is the fact. Kung ano yung katotohanan sa mga impormasyong nakalatag sa ating harapan para hindi na lumagana pa ang fake news. 8-hour labor law, yung mas nakakasama ng loob at nakakasakit ng bulsa. Kasi talamak ang pang-ubuso nito sa bansa. Walang oras na nagtatrabaho, below minimum pa yung sweldo, then pag may overtime, thank you lang yung kapalit. Naranasan ko kasi ito before, sa hirap ng buhay kolehiyo, need kumayod sa dami ng gastusin. Duly registered daw yung pinagtrabahuan ko dati according sa kanila, pero kung magpasweldo below minimum na, delayed pa. And no overtime pay, asan ka pa, diba? Excited pa naman ako sa journey ko bilang isang first-time employee, yun lang pala yung naghihintay sa akin. At hindi na rin ako umalis kasi ang hirap maghanap ng panibagong trabaho. And since kailangan ko rin ng pera, sinabi ko na lang yung mga hinanaing ko sa family and close friends ko. And ang suggestion nila is isuplong ko daw. Though we have good intentions, alam naman natin how industry treats whistleblowers, diba? I can't jeopardize my future, which is why I endured it for a year. To be honest, I am quite disappointed with the way most of the industry operates these days. They are very demanding when it comes to job applicant skills and qualifications, but they don't pay according to their set standard. As someone who will soon be part of the working community, I am already aware that we can't do anything about it, since we also need a job to earn and survive. This is mainly the reason why many Filipinos want to work abroad, reducing the country's workforce kasi even a domestic helper position pays more than a 4-year degree position. This is about the courageous surrender of the Filipino and the American forces against the Japanese during World War II, wherein they surrendered not because they were cowards nor had no skill to fight, but because they know when to retreat. Yan yung kailangan natin sa buhay, yung alam natin kung kailan dapat umabante at kailan dapat huminto or matras. Yung pagpurso ko ng degree ko sa Davao, miles away from home, hindi siya naging madali kasi hindi naman mayaman parents ko. Pero nasa Davao kasi yung course na gusto ko at dahil mapilit ako, kaya doon ako nag-freshman. At dahil ako yung may gusto, pinag-igihan ko mga apply ng scholarship. Natatanggap naman ako luckily but it can cover all my expenses. Kaya nagtrabaho ako. Ginawa ko lahat, ma-survive ko lang yung college years ko kasi I'm working on my goals. Okay naman siya kahit mahirap na enjoy ko naman, not until pandemic. I am an upcoming third-year student. At that time, delayed yung scholarship ko, hindi ako makapag-enroll kasi hindi fully paid. Nawalan din ako ng trabaho, pati parents ko nawalan ng trabaho. But my personal expenses keep going on. I don't know what to do, sunod-sunod na problema due to the pandemic. I can't go look for another job because of heightened restrictions. Wala akong choice but to stop and wait for everything to be back to normal. Grabing iyak ko noon kasi I wanted to graduate on time with my friends, pero hindi ko na magawa, and crying can solve everything. That is why I wholeheartedly accept the situation that it is not my time yet. I have my own timeline. But I can't just sit still and do nothing amidst pandemic. I need to keep going and prepare for my comeback and pursuing my dream degree. That is why I decided to go home and enroll in a public school closely related to my dream degree. Magpo 4 years na din mula noon. We feel really glad and proud that I made the right choice back then. Because if I really do what my heart desired in the past, I'm sure I will suffer and even my family will have a hard time. Hindi maganda ang sugod ng sugod. Masasaktan ka lang at hindi din maganda ang atras ang atras. Kasi baka chance mo na, pinakawalan mo pa. Palaging may tamang panahon sa lahat ng bagay. At dito naman tayo sa political power. A legal system exists because of man, a system embodied by laws enacted by specific personas to protect the territory in people's individual rights from injustices, as well as to maintain peace and order in the country. We all know that political power revolve around the control of men, yung mga nasa posisyon. Pinoprotektahan sila ng kapangyarihang ng posisyon nila at gumagalaw ayon din sa ngalan nito. Kaya nga hindi nakabigla-bigla sa atin pag makita tayo ng mga politiko na kinakasuhan o naaaresto sa kadahilan ng pang-aabuso sa kapangyarihan. Kasi exposed sila doon sa temptation. Ang masakit lang kasi tayo yung nagbigay ng kapangyarihan sa kanila through voting. We are the reason why they are in that position. But most of the time, we are the ones who are being taken advantage of without even knowing it. We became full supporters, relying on and blindly supporting them dahil sa mga pangako nilang pang-makabayan. At the end, we are to blame kung bakit talamak din yung corruption. Life values are what revolve around us and we always reap what we sow. Upon selecting an official, we have the upper hand in putting them in a position where they can execute political power. Our ignorance in regards to that will not excuse us from selecting undeserving officials, similarly to how laws apply to everyone as it excuses no one. Political power was supposed to be enjoyed by everyone, not just by selected few for personal gain. That is why we need to become responsible citizens of our nation at all times because the future of our land lies in our hands. Thanks for listening. That could be all for today. See you in my next video.